Elon Musk becoming nearly a trillionaire really has exposed everyone, hasn't it? It's really been quite the circus watching liberals and conservatives twist themselves into knots. Conservatives are tripping over themselves to defend Musk's net worth on the basis that profit is an indication of value creation, which is true where there is voluntary exchange. But shouldn't conservatives be the ones pointing out redistribution doesn't create anything? And why are liberals suddenly complaining about resources being used by enlightened central planners? I thought we were supposed to basically get free value when the state spent money on space, infrastructure, green energy, and the industries of the future. For years, we were told that government should subsidize exactly these sectors. Think of the technology that will come from funding space exploration, they said. Think of the climate benefits. Think of the innovation. Yet when billionaires become wealthy in precisely these subsidized sectors, that is somehow evidence of capitalism's failure. The left has no problem with massive public investment. They only object when the results produce private fortune. If the same money had been burned through government agency, produced worse results, and lost billions every year, many of them would still call it a public benefit because nobody got too rich. That's what happens when you reject profit and loss. You stop asking whether resources were used well and only ask whether the outcome was equal enough. Meanwhile, conservatives are correctly rejecting the redistributionist instinct once the wealth exists, but they are far less interested in asking whether taxation, subsidies, and public contracts created that fortune in the first place. Of course, the left never concerns itself with the necessity of profit and loss signals because they are committed to the lies of surplus value, the economy as a fixed pie, and political allocation as the solution to everything. But apparently, political allocation isn't something the right is willing to take a hard stance against. Both sides borrow the language of freedom, but neither side grounds freedom in natural rights. The left might emphasize things that sound freedom adjacent, like personal property, democracy, or limited markets, but everyone knows they don't want a free society with socialist aesthetics. They reject natural rights. The right has its own diet freedom or freedom light in the form of constitutionalism. But again, we know they don't want a free society with conservative aesthetics either. They reject natural rights too. They both want government because their real priorities require government. The left needs the state to force equality. The right needs the state to preserve order, nation, tradition, or whatever collective identity they're worshiping this week. So even if you could offer them a peaceful society based on property rights and voluntary exchange, their own worldview would force them to reject it. Conservatives will complain about censorship, gun control, lockdowns, bureaucracy, taxes, and political persecution, but when pressed on first principles, which of them will say that rights come from human nature, self-ownership, or the moral fact that peaceful people may not be ruled without consent? Instead, they say rights come from the Constitution, tradition, the courts, the nation, the police, or the military. Basically, rights are just whatever your ancestors managed to secure. But if rights are just whatever power happens to protect, then they are not rights, they are permissions. That is the authoritarian streak hiding just under the surface when conservatives talk about liberty. To them, freedom is something granted by the nation, preserved by authority, and limited by whatever the collective says is necessary for order. To them, the individual does not have rights prior to the state. This is exactly what progressives believe as well. They insist that government entitlements are genuine rights, and that the distinction between a real right and a state benefit is just right-wing propaganda. They believe you can make another person's property morally yours simply by the fact that you have less than they do, as if we can just make that choice. The statist is mentally enslaved because he believes all he can hope for are privileges inside a historical arrangement. Politics is already the contest over which tribe gets to rule. Natural rights are what allow you to condemn that contest in the first place. Without them, you aren't objecting to political domination. You're just arguing over who should dominate. So it's no wonder conservatives are so easily tricked into supporting power. They are the same as progressives at the level that matters. They are in love with being at war politically. All of these statists talk about freedom, but how many of them would take peace if it were offered to them?